chat box if you can hear the lecture.
लगाइए प्रभु जी.
Darkness. This is what spiritual inquiry is. What am I? What is this body? What are all these personalities? All these different varieties of bodies? What is this world? Who is controlling it? What is the nature of love? What is the nature of all these moods and tastes of affection and love in this material world? What is the mood and taste in the spiritual world? All these inquiries. This means not to be dull-headed, to be inquisitive, to know about Krishna and Krishna's manifestation. Being prepared to give up anything material for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For Krishna, sometimes you may have to give up something you don't like to give up. Actually, our likes and dislikes are governed by the modes of material nature. In material concept of life, someone says, I like to eat some nonsense, mushrooms or something like that. Why he likes it? Because he's influenced by the mode of ignorance to taste something which is grown in stool in an obnoxious place like mushroom or onions, something like that. Then you meet other persons, they don't like that. They like something that is very hot, too much salt. Persons in the mode of passion and persons in the mode of goodness, they're attracted to eating fresh fruits, vegetables, milk products, sugar, like that. So these different modes of material nature, they can conduct our likes and dislikes. Actually, we've lost our initiative to like or dislike anything. We've surrendered our freedom of choice to the modes of material nature. And the modes of material nature are acting upon us. This is the covering influence of Maya. Maya has two influences. One is called throwing influence, and one is called the covering influence. The throwing influence is when you desire to be apart from Krishna. That is the throwing influence of Maya. And the covering influence is that as soon as you desire to be apart from Krishna, you're covered by this materialistic body, and you act in this material body with a perverted cognition, thinking that I am the supreme enjoyer. And by your actions and reactions, you become covered, and you become an eternally conditioned soul. In the past you're conditioned, at present you're conditioned, and in the future you'll also be conditioned. So this is the covering influence of Maya, to act for sense gratification in this material world. So one may have to give up something that he may not like to give up in this conditional state of life for the satisfaction of Krishna. But that is not actually giving up. That means you're gaining your spiritual initiative. Instead of being forced to eat something in the mode of ignorance, or the mode of passion, or the mode of goodness, you eat transcendental prasadam. You see? That means you have freedom. You're choosing, you're utilizing your initiative. I want to eat Krishna prasadam. I don't want this nonsense. Goodness, passion, or ignorance. You see? Everyone else is forced to go to the restaurant. In the mode of goodness, they're going to health food store. Mode of passion, they're going this place, that place. Mode of ignorance, this place, that place. But you're going to the temple, you're eating Krishna prasadam, transcendental. Or you're turning your home into a temple and offering prasadam there, transcendental. This means you're a liberated soul because you have freedom. This is a very important principle. If you can execute this principle, you're a liberated soul. Liberation means to have your initiative back, to be able to choose the transcendental, instead of being forced to choose in the mode of ignorance, passion, or goodness. In the mode of goodness, one is forced to want to live in the country. In the mode of passion, he's forced to want to live in the city. He's forced in the mode of ignorance to want to live in the bar or the brothel. Yes, they're living in these places. But you devotees, you're choosing. No, I won't follow these modes. I'll live in Krishna's house. The temple is transcendental to the mode of goodness even. So you're living transcendentally. Herein becomes liberated soul. Therefore, anyone who is in Krishna consciousness, he's considered to be rightly situated. Even though there may be some abominable thing in his character, that cannot be held against him because he's acting on the platform of a liberated soul. Simply that you discriminate, I won't follow my whims, I'll follow the order of my spiritual master. That means you're a liberated soul. Just that. You see, and that's only the beginning. Liberation is only the beginning. Then there's activities in liberation. Exchange of feelings, emotions, and love with the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead and your God brothers and God sisters. Krishna Katha, the glories of the Lord, you start to relish. So liberation is just the beginning. So devotees in Krishna consciousness, you can just imagine how advanced they are. That liberation, freedom from the modes of material nature, which is the goal of most religions, the goal of most yoga processes, is only the beginning platform in Krishna consciousness. It's just the beginning step. Therefore, it's considered to be postgraduate study of religion, postgraduate study of yoga, the topmost yoga system, because it begins with the goal of all yoga systems, and it progresses from that point. Just try to see the value of freedom. That is the basic principle of bhakti, is freedom to choose. In other mechanical systems of yoga, they're simply trying to gain this freedom by restraining the senses, by controlling the breath, by controlling the sitting posture, controlling the eating. They're trying to gain control over their senses so that the senses are not swept away by the modes of material nature. They're trying to gain control over their minds so their minds are not swept away by desires conducted by the modes of material nature. But in Krishna consciousness, immediately we start on that platform. Senses engaged in Krishna, mind engaged in Krishna, liberated soul from the very beginning. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is not an ordinary thing. It's very rarely achieved. Persons in Krishna consciousness are considered to be so rare. Out of thousands of men, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, one may be interested in self-realization. And out of thousands of such men, only one may understand what is the actual self, what is Brahman. And out of thousands of such liberated souls, only one may be interested to know me. So just see how rare is that platform. Therefore, that is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, that he's making something which is very, very rarely achieved, very easily available. That doesn't mean that it's not rarely achieved, still. It is rarely achieved. But it's easily available. It's not hidden somewhere in any part of the world. It's now available all over the world. So, being easily available does not make it cheap. It's the same valuable substance, beginning on the platform of liberation. So this quality is very important. Being able to reject anything which cannot be used in the service of the Lord, even though one may have a desire for it, conducted by the modes. That power to reject that desire, that means that you have Krishna's mercy. And one must have to accept something which you would not ordinarily accept to satisfy the Lord. There is also the same quality. Residing in a sacred place. We have to live in a transcendental place, just like in the temple we're living. Or those that are householders, they're making their household. I visited some houses here. They have altars in their homes, and they're worshiping in a regulated manner, offering food, prasadam. In this way, they're living in a transcendental place, holy place. Holy place means where sense gratification is not going on, where the service of the Lord is being practiced in regulated vow. So any place can become a holy place if devotional service is practiced in regulation and vow. There. Krishna is not limited simply to these places, Dwarka, Vrindavan. Dwarka, Vrindavan, Krishna is always there. But wherever Krishna is, these things are also there. Dwarka, Vrindavan. So if you bring Krishna into your home, if you bring Krishna into your heart, if you bring Krishna into all your activities, then you're living in Vrindavan. You're living in Dwarka, isn't it? Because Krishna is always there. So if you bring Krishna into everything, then you're living in Vrindavan, you're living in Dwarka. Krishna says, if you actually see the truth, you will know that all things, all living beings are in me and are mine. When your intelligence has come out of this dense forest of illusion, you will become indifferent to all this knowledge apart from Krishna. You'll become indifferent to it all because you'll see everything in relationship to Krishna. You'll be living in a holy place and dealing with the material world only as far as necessary. This is also a principle. There can be difficulty in practicing devotional service. And one of the difficulties is this over-endeavor. Prabhupada gives a lecture on one of his tapes that over-endeavor means that we should accept something which we can be performed by us without too much attention on the business, but keeping our attention on Krishna. That is the principle. This is also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, that one has to dovetail his activities in Krishna's service. But any activity which does not result in the 9 principles of devotional service, hearing about the Lord, chanting about the Lord, glorifying the Lord, remembering the Lord, worshiping the Lord, offering prayers, serving the Lord, serving the lotus feet of the deity, making the Lord your friend, giving up everything for the Lord. Any activity which does not lead to these 9 prasis, 9 activities, that is considered to be over-endeavor. This is the definition we get in Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we can dovetail our qualities in Krishna's service, if you're a businessman or whatever. But if your business does not lend to these 9 things, hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, then that is over-endeavor. Because that is our business. These are the principles of Bhakti Yoga. Anything which is not conducive to these principles is considered to be over-endeavor. So these 10 items are preliminary necessities for beginning the discharge of devotional service in regulative principles. The next set of instructions is listed as follows. 1, one should rigidly give up the company of non-devotees. 2, one should not instruct a person who is not desirous of accepting devotional service. 3, one should not be very enthusiastic about constructing costly temples or monasteries. 4, one should not try to read too many books, nor should one develop the idea of earning his livelihood by lecturing on or by professionally reciting Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita. 5, one should not be neglectful in ordinary dealings. 6, one should not be under the spell of lamentation and loss or tribulation and gain. 7, one should not disrespect the demigods. 8, one should not give unnecessary trouble to any living entity. 9, one should carefully avoid the various offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord or in worshiping the deity in the temple. And 10, one should be very intolerant towards the blasphemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or his devotees. So, one should rigidly give up the company of non-devotees. This means that one should not have intimate contact. For preaching, one can go amongst non-devotees, only for the purpose of preaching. And he should avoid contact, bodily contact, with such non-devotee personalities, because their senses are impure. By impure activities, the body becomes also impure. So one should not touch that body unless he's a very advanced soul. Then it's possible to even inject spiritual realization by touching non-devotee. But one should avoid the company of non-devotees. Lord Chaitanya gave his example. During Rath Yatra ceremony, he fell down in trance. And a king, he rescued the Lord, holding him up from falling on the ground. But when Lord Chaitanya saw that a king, a man who's dealing with money and the worldly things, politics, etc., killing, this and that, when he saw that the king had rescued him, then he immediately cursed himself. That, I should be cursed for being touched by such a worldly man. Now the king was actually a devotee. That's another part of it. So there was no question. But Lord Chaitanya wanted to give example that we should not have intimate association with non-devotee class of men. Lord Chaitanya told his disciples that one should rather embrace a cage of tigers or fire, being put in a cage with tigers or fire, than be put in a room with a man who's too much attached to sex life. Yes. The burning fire of material lust is worse than the burning fire, heat, or the burning, the sensation of the tiger. It's worse than that. So these are the examples that Lord Chaitanya gives us, that we should not seek intimate association with non-devotees. But for preaching, one can go amongst. One should not instruct a person who is not desirous of accepting devotional service. That means that you should not preach the glories of the Lord to someone who doesn't have a surrendered, inquiring spirit. In other words, if someone is not interested to know about Krishna, about devotional service, one should not force it upon him. Of course, when we lecture, we take some risk that there may be persons there that are challenging in spirit, that don't want to hear. But Prabhupada states in Bhagavad Gita that a preacher has to take that risk for the satisfaction of the Lord. And the Lord will protect him from the reactions of that risk. So when we preach in general, there may be someone there that is not sincere about hearing. That is not our fault, because the preaching work must go on for the innocent. But if we meet a challenging personality, atheistic personality, we should not try to force him to hear about the details of the glories of the Lord. As far as chanting of Hare Krishna goes, anyone can hear that. Anyone can hear that and derive some benefit. But one should not preach, says. One should not be very enthusiastic about constructing costly temples or monasteries. This was a practice in a previous age, constructing large temples in which Brahmins would be employed and they would chant the mantras and perform the sacrifices for temple worship. But because this is not possible in this age to be done on a large scale, therefore it's not recommended that we should hire second-class persons to come in and maintain the temples, just to build more and more costly temples. That we don't want. This was possible in other age when the Brahmins were pure. But since it's not so in this age, therefore this recommendation is given, that one should not be eager to construct many temples and simply maintain them for name's sake only. Here, this is a different thing. This is directly going on under the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, and it's being performed by Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Therefore, it can be done in full opulence without any risk of becoming superficial or in name only. 4, one should not try to read too many books, nor should one develop the idea of earning his livelihood by lecturing on or by professionally reciting Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says to preach one has to have potency, and purity is the force. Unless we're actually pure in our activities, we can't have the force for preaching. There won't be the potency for preaching properly. So one has to save himself by practicing pure principles, living a holy life, and chanting the glories of the Lord was Lord Chaitanya's method. And if one follows that, then he has potency to preach Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. But not that he can employ any funds derived therewith for personal sense gratification. That's impure, and his potency will be lost. One should not be neglectful in ordinary dealings. One should not be neglectful in ordinary dealings. There are details to be performed in devotional service. We have to be careful cleaning the floor. We have to be careful in the deity worship. We have to be careful in the cooking of prasadam. Prabhupada gave us a lecture just the other day. Everything has to become first class. Not third class, but first class. That means attention to details. This is a difficulty for us, seeing that in our materialistic way of life, the whole principle is to get away with as little as you can. That is the principle of material life. To get as much as you can for as little endeavor as possible. But the principle of yoga, Bhakti Yoga, especially devotional love, is that the more you do, the more you increase your love. The more you're attentive to the details of satisfying Krishna, the more you feel Krishna's satisfaction. Therefore, the more we're attentive to the details of devotional service, That means to act on the instruction of authority. You don't know what the details are. You have to hear it from an authority. And when you act on the instruction of an authority, then you feel the satisfaction of the authority. And it's coming down from Krishna himself. He's the original authority on bhakti. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. He's the original authority on bhakti. And it's coming down to our spiritual master today, who's representative of Lord Chaitanya. So if we carry out the details on his instruction, then we'll feel his smiling glance upon us. And that happiness will make us free from all material contamination. So one has to be attentive in ordinary dealings. And that means also with one another. Prabhupada is always concerned. I was talking to my godbrother, Sutakirti Prabhu, who happens to be our spiritual master's close servant. And he told me that Prabhupada is always concerned about the care of devotees and the care of the temple activities. If he sees a devotee is not having a coat, he'll inquire, Sutakirti told me, why this boy doesn't have a coat? And he'll tell the authority, you should provide for this boy to have a coat. And if they have a coat and they're not wearing it, then Prabhupada is concerned about that also. Why they risk? This is not your body that you can risk coming out in all kinds of weather without a proper coat. So Prabhupada is concerned about the details even of ordinary dealings, because we can't be neglectful and be practicing the principles of sadhana bhakti, regulation and vow. Vow means not to be neglectful. It means to be attentive, to carry out what I vowed to perform. That's an important principle. All of us have shortcomings in this way, and therefore we have to, especially older devotees, you have to help the younger devotees come to this platform of being attentive to details. If an older devotee criticizes you that, you're not attentive, you haven't cleaned this pot properly, you haven't taken care properly of this point or that point, you should not feel offended. He's your well-wisher. Prabhupada is very much like that. I was up in Prabhupada's room just the other night, and my godbrother, his servant, was making some mistake with the machine. And Prabhupada was very careful to criticize him. That, why you're speculating? Why don't you go get an authority who knows how to run the machine? So this is an example. Even if you had personal association with Prabhupada, you're getting criticism. So you shouldn't consider, if you're getting criticism from an older godbrother, that this is something bad. That he's picking on me, or he's always trying to find fault in me. No, there's no personal motive. He's not doing it out of any personal motive. Otherwise, we'd go out and enjoy sense gratification if there was personal motive. Why we'd take so much trouble to be austere and live this life if we were going to have personal motive? Therefore, don't be offended if you become criticized. Even if you become harshly chastised by your godbrother, you consider it that, this is mercy. Prabhupada told us even himself that when he was criticized by his Guru Maharaj, that he considered that the day he received the mercy of his spiritual master. So don't be reactionary. That is personally motivated. Think always of the details of devotional service. And if someone criticizes you for not carrying it out, then you accept, Krishna, you're so kind. You're speaking to me through my godbrother. You're trying to help me advance towards you through my godbrother. That should be the attitude. Always be in a service attitude, that these are all my superiors, Prabhus. You can practice this by bowing down. Boys have been coming up to me. I've been recommending that they rise together and immediately pay obeisances to one another, touch each other's feet. Sudama Maharaj and I were older devotees. We've been used to each other's association for so many years, but still when we rise in the morning, we offer obeisances. When we see each other, we take the dust of each other's feet. This is recommended by our spiritual master. So if you want to make yourself free from personal motive, free from pride, then you practice this principle of becoming the servant of your godbrother, servant of your godsister. Take the dust of their feet, offer to do some service. So you be very careful to keep yourself in this humble state of mind, always being willing to offer respects to others and render service to others. This is the platform of being able to chant Hare Krishna constantly in a humble state of mind. If you're having difficulty chanting Hare Krishna constantly, if you're having difficulty becoming reactionary to your god brothers, proud, then you take one god brother you respect and you become his menial servant. That will help you advance. And this is recommended, to serve the devotees of the Lord, to offer them prasadam, to receive prasadam from them. These are principles of sadhana bhakti. So, one should not be neglectful in ordinary dealings. One should not be under the spell of lamentation in loss or tribulation in gain. Lamentation and loss is due, just like Prabhupada gives the example. If I'm a bank teller and I'm counting so many millions of dollars daily, I'm not the gainer. I don't rejoice that, I'm counting so many millions of dollars. I have so much money to take home with me at the end of the day. No, I'm only a teller in the bank. And if the bank becomes robbed during the day and all the millions of dollars are taken out, I don't lament that, I've lost so many millions of dollars. No, I'm unaffected because I'm only a teller in the bank. So when we accept our position of being simply a representative of the Lord, acting on behalf of the Lord, then whatever gain is there, we accept in a spirit of renunciation that, this must be turned over to the Lord. And whatever loss may be incurred by the material nature, material energy, we consider that to be simply the fluctuation of the energy of the Lord, working its inconceivable way. So this is the position of becoming a teller, becoming simply a representative of the Lord. No lamentation and loss, and no tribulation and gain, worrying how I'm going to use all this accumulated property. The materialists, they're never happy. If they gain, then they're worried what they're going to do with it. And if they lose, then they're worried over what they've lost. So their whole position is anxiety. According to Bhagavad Gita, their anxiety knows no bounds. It has no bounds. It goes on increasing the more they do, the more they increase their anxiety. So, a devotee is free from anxiety because he knows he's representative of the Lord. One should not disrespect the demigods. The demigods are empowered by the Lord to assist him in the function of creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material world. Therefore, they're considered to be the limbs of the Lord, the working organs of the Lord's universal body. So one should not disrespect the demigods. One should not give unnecessary trouble to any living entity. This is the compassionate nature of a devotee of the Lord, that he cannot stand to see suffering of another living being. That is the definition of compassion, one who cannot bear the sufferings of another. So, we should first of all appeal to the compassionate nature of the Lord, namely the spiritual master and headed by Srimati Radharani. The eternal consort of the Lord is considered to be the compassionate nature. In the compassionate nature of the Lord, he forgets his inapproachable position, his omnipotent position, and he accepts even a little thing offered in love as a great deal. That is the compassionate nature of the Lord. Even a little thing offered in love is accepted as a great, great deal. So we ourselves should approach the compassionate nature of the Lord, and also we should give compassion to others in the same way. Prabhupada states, what are we? What is our value? It's nothing. And what is the value of our things that we're offering? It's also nothing. But because we're coming with the feeling of bhakti, I brought this, please accept it. Therefore, Krishna accepts that. So if Krishna has that compassion upon you, you should also extend that compassion to others. If you see someone is coming to the temple, they're not very advanced, they're only able to do a little bit of service maybe, you should take it as a great deal. That, how wonderful, this person is coming. Just like, all of you, if a new person who has no association with devotees, if he comes here and he offers to do a little service, then we take it as a great deal, isn't it? That we say, how nice this boy is. He's come here, the first time he's here, he wants to sweep the floor. Except for that, he's probably abominable in all his activities. But because he extended a little bit of devotion, you take it as a great deal. That is your compassion, and that's proper. Therefore, how much more you should have compassion for your actual God brothers and God sisters that have actually sacrificed everything to come and serve Krishna with their total energy. You may find some abomination in their character. They may do something, oversleep sometime, or be neglectful of some duty sometime. But if you lose your compassion and you forget that Krishna accepts a little bit as a great deal, then you become a fender of the devotees of the Lord. And you yourself will lose your attachment to Krishna. So those of you that are in positions of authority, you also have to be very wary, because you could become a fender at the lotus feet of devotees of the Lord. And if you do so, your attachment will wane to second class, third class, and eventually nil. Therefore, a position of authority has to be very, very carefully executed in the line of our spiritual masters. We have to take example from our own Guru Maharaj, how compassionate he is, that he accepts even a little bit as a great deal. Although he may be very critical at times of our attentiveness to details in devotional service, still, if there's any question of giving up on our part, he'll say, oh no, don't be a fool. You're always my dearest disciple. You're always my intimate disciple and child. I'm always pleased by you because my Guru Maharaj has sent you to help me in spreading Krishna consciousness. So you should never forget the compassionate nature of the Lord. You see, the merciful nature of the Lord. And you should extend that to your godbrothers and godsisters and all others. Don't be puffed up. Otherwise you'll become a fender of the devotees and you'll lose your attachment to Krishna. This is especially those of you that are in position of authority. I think we'll stop here tonight.
His Holiness Vishnujana Swami Maharaja ki Jai.
Jai.
So now we will discuss and share something about Vishnujana Swami Maharaj. I hope everyone must have heard the Guru Puja, kirtans, the Samsar Davanal prayers, and the beautiful kirtans, right? So all those tunes, all those things, all those Vaishnava songs, like everything, every standard of kirtans are set by His Holiness Vishnujana Swami Maharaj. So like we are seeing, like we'll go through some slides and we'll like check about his early life, about joining in ISKCON, and the most happening part of his life was how he disappeared from the devotee community, right? So that is something which everyone of us must have heard in little pieces, but we'll discuss it in like some detail. So yeah, Vishnujan Swami Maharaj, he was from California. He joined ISKCON in San Francisco in the year 1967. And like when he joined Hare Krishna movement, at that time he was like married. He came to San Francisco with his girlfriend, but his the Mataji, her his wife, did not showed any interest, and he left his wife and joined Hare Krishna as a full-time devotee. So like in 1968, he had received initiation, and then he received this name Vishnu Das from Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, like he was very fond of his kirtans. Whenever Prabhupada would enter into the temple hall, and whenever any event, Rath Yatra were there, Vishnujan Maharaj was the one who was leading the kirtans. Even if we will go through some of the videos where Vyas Puja or Prabhupada is celebrated, so Vishnujan Maharaj is the one who is leading kirtans, who is like inspiring devotees. And there are many legendary devotees who came to Krishna consciousness just by his touch of kirtans. Like we have the example of His Holiness Indradyumna Swami Maharaj. So when like Vishnujan Sai Maharaj, he was very famous for his like college town and urban, like for his kirtans in college town and urban centers. Like even in our India, there are very handful universities which are having a very great area. But in America, even a university like it is spread all over like a great area. So Maharaj met Indradyumna Maharaj in Michigan when he was like doing his studies and inspired him to donate like whatever he has received from his father for a Sunday love feast. And when Maharaj entered the temple, so like it was very clear in his mind that he want to become like Vishnujana Sai Maharaj. Vishnujana Sai Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, like they were very good friends. And Maharaj had already a very deep interest in singing and in kirtans and in other things. So when he joined our movement, so like he became, at that time we were not having much like mridanga and harmonium in the West, right? So all those things like they were taking shape because at that time our movement was only like 5 or 7 years old. At that time, Vishnujan Sai Maharaj, he used to like have his mridanga and harmonium, right? And he was the sannyasi who was down in the streets chanting kirtans for minimum 10 hours. So when we are hearing the lecture, he was saying like how we have to become a menial servant of even our god brother, god sister. And at that time, like we can see, like if he can chant for 10 hours, 12 hours, so how much humility, how much tolerance, or what we have heard in Sikshashtakam verse number 3, he had imbibed in his personality. At one time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was heading one center in the US and he complained to Prabhupada that Vishnujan is not going for collecting donations and it will be difficult for us to manage the temple, right? So then Prabhupada told, just his chanting is enough and that will bring all the donations and other things to your temple, right? So Prabhupada, like he used to call Vishnujan Maharaj as like a Vaikuntha man. And there are other many other personalities like whom we are associating. His Grace Sankarshan Das Adhikari Prabhu. He was also brought up in Krishna consciousness by Vishnu Jan Swami Maharaj. There were around 300 devotees who joined as a full-time devotee with the preaching of Vishnujan Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Can you imagine? And like we all have heard about the traveling Sankirtan party, even our temple and every place, like every scores are shooting up in the marathon, right? Traveling Sankirtan party, Nityanand traveling Sankirtan party and other things. So those traveling Sankirtan parties, they were first started by Vishnujan Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj in the West. And 8 Sankirtan parties were being headed by Vishnujan Maharaj. Now, when like we used to hear the lectures at our time, so devotees told us that at one place Vishnujan Maharaj he would be singing kirtans, right, with his mridanga and other things. They would enter the bus, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj he would discuss with them, and from the other gate they would come with their heads shaved up. So that was the intensity of preaching, right? So now, when we are hearing the lecture, now there can be confusion that because we have seen many devotees that those who are good in kirtans, but they are not very good in philosophy. But Maharaj, he was like such a profound storyteller. He was very profound in his Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam discussions. Right, he was very clear in his messages, and there are few other audio clips on ISKCON Desiratory if you wish to go and hear. So, whatever, even he used to chant in the main places of California. Recently, Los Angeles, the area near Hollywood Hills, was burning, right? Even Vishnujan Maharaj, he was leading kirtans at Hollywood Hills and other main places of California, right? Los Angeles. And his kirtans, like public kirtans, were also recorded in 2, 3 Hollywood films. That is mentioned in his biography. And if you want to read more, so it is mentioned like His Grace Vaisakhi Pro has written a book on his life, which is entitled as Radha Damodar Vilas. Right now, we are having like just few minutes, so we'll discuss about his glorious departure. Right before that, there is also one small pastime that the northern America is having more cold, like -30, -40 degrees Celsius. And the southern America means southern United States of America is having less cold. So when they were traveling from the northern America, I don't remember the city name. So Vishnujan Maharaj, when he woke up to offer Aarti to Radha Damodar in the bus, he was not able to move his hands. And he was crying, he was lamenting that I am not able to serve Radha Damodar. He was crying on his own deficiency, not on the weather, that the weather is such that I'm not able to offer the arti. But he was crying that I have become lame and I'm not able to offer arti. So, like, such was his love for even for the deities. Now, many of us have heard about his departure, so that is a little mysterious. And if we, now that is like given in more detail in Prabhupada Lilamrit and the DVD memories of Prabhupada's life, which are recorded and uploaded on YouTube. But in summary, I would like to tell like Vishnujan Maharaj, he was going through some of the difficulties. He never mentioned what were the difficulties he was facing, right? He was having some guilt in his heart. And there were a group of devotees who were flying from United States of America to India. The whole airplane was booked. Like that was the first and last time it was done in the history. So Vishnujan Maharaj, he also came to Mayapur and he was having like some guilt in his heart. Now, what was that? It was never cleared. It is never mentioned. So he was having some guilt in his heart and he wanted to ask Prabhupada that what can be the repentance, right? So he just like now Prabhupada, he was walking on the roof of the Lotus building. Lotus building, one of the big buildings in our campus, Mayapur campus. That was the only building which was constructed. So Prabhupada, he was walking, Vishnujan Maharaj was there, Madhudvish Prabhu, he was there, and many other Prabhupada disciples were there. So Vishnujan Maharaj asked that if a sannyasi falls down, what should be the repentance? What should he do? Then Prabhupada told he should commit suicide like Chota Haridas, right? And then Prabhupada he went ahead. Prabhupada did not turn back, and Vishnujan Maharaj he stayed back there only. And from that time he was never seen again. So after some time, the devotees like there were some Brahman who came from Prayagraj to New Delhi, and they told that there was a white sannyasi who left his body in Prayagraj. He gave us some money. We chanted some sacred mantra for him, and we took him in the middle of the river. And he, after our chanting of the sacred mantra, he jumped off from the boat. And in this way, he committed suicide. So Prabhupada, he got this news in April 1977 when he was in Bombay. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he brought this news to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada started crying. And Prabhupada told that it should not be done. Vishnujana should not have done that. Vishnujana should not have done that. And he turned his face to the window and stopped saying anything. He started crying and other things. Then 2 weeks later, Prabhupada told to Tamal Krishna Maharaj that Vishnujan, he is very advanced. He is singing for me in his dreams. He is singing for me in my dreams. So it is like the same Chota Haridas was singing for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Mahaprabhu's dreams. So that was the whole instance. And then just concluding with these lines. So Prabhupada told that just completing this conversation, that one should commit suicide like Chota Haridas. But then Prabhupada kept a pause and then told, this method of atonement should not be done of committing suicide. But the method of atonement for such a fall down is to re-engage in devotional service. Right. So this is also a lesson for all the ISKCON devotees and for everyone, that if any such fall down happens, we have to re-engage in devotional service and continue by following the instructions of Guru and Krishna. So I will stop here. I'm sorry for taking 3 minutes more. Thank you very much. His Holiness Vishnu Swami Maharaj ki jai. His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai.